Welcome to this video about sports in Australia. As you know, Australia has 6 states and a couple of territories, but there's only really one sport that it's played in all 6 states and territories, and that's cricket. In summer, as we're in now, cricket is the national sport. And you may have heard a little bit about cricket. It sounds boring, could go for 5 days, and you might not even get a winner, it might be a draw. But there are nuances to cricket and a few other forms of cricket that might appeal to you. There's games that end in one day, which are 50 overs a side, and there's also 2020 games which are popular now with a national competition called the Big Bash, which has a game which is played almost every night, which is over in 3 hours. So an hour and a half for one team, an hour and a half for the other team, and it's all over. So if you want to take your friends out to a nice night of cricket, Big Bash is probably the place to start. Then it gets a little bit more complicated when we get into the winter months, because each state likes their own forms of football. So in the southern states, Victoria, South Australia and Western Australia, AFL or Australian Rules Football is a popular sport. It is played predominantly in those states, but there are teams in Sydney and Brisbane as well. And if you haven't heard of AFL, it's a bit of a funny looking sport to someone who hasn't seen it before, because it doesn't look like there's any rules. You kick the ball to teammates and catch it. You can pass by punching the ball like that, or you can run for 15 meters before you've got to get rid of it and give it to a teammate. You get 6 points for a goal and 1 point for a behind if you just missed the goal. That's AFL in the southern states. On the eastern states, like New South Wales and Queensland, the most predominant sport is rugby league, which was originated in England in 1908 when it broke off from the traditional rugby or rugby union. Rugby league's probably the most like American football, most sport like American football that we have here. It's played by 13 players a side, and it's got a national competition called the National Rugby League. Very popular on the eastern states, but the showpiece all-star game that's played 3 times each year is called State of Origin between New South Wales and Queensland. So you get 2 teams whose players were born in either of the 2 states, and they'll go at it with probably one of the best atmospheres you'll find anywhere in the world. So apart from rugby league, as I mentioned, there's also rugby union. That's played predominantly by private schools, kids, and it's only really supported on the national level when the national team, the Wallabies, play a couple of times a year in Australia. Apart from those football codes, there's the traditional soccer, or football as it's known everywhere else in the world, football, the round ball game. There's a national competition called the A-League with at least 1 team in each state, and it goes for the summer months, so it's not up against the other teams in winter, the other sports in winter. The Socceroos are popular pretty much everywhere around the nation. That's the national team. They play in World Cups. And so that's football traditionally. Apart from that, those football codes, which are all fighting for coverage, you get the once a year events like the tennis played in Melbourne for the Australian Open in January. You get the Formula 1 in March, also in Melbourne. And Melbourne's pretty popular because they got the national horse race called the Melbourne Cup on the first Tuesday of November, where you'll find pretty much every pub playing the horse race and most Australians stopping work to watch this race that stops the nation. It's really cool. Pretty much everyone has a little bet on the game. Australians love gambling. So those are the popular sports in Australia. If you have any questions, I'll go into more details in the comments below. Thanks for watching.